Happy Friday, everyone. In today's Home Buying Basics video, we are going to talk about making an offer, which is the fourth step in the home buying process. For review, step number 1 is getting your pre-approval letter. Step number 2 is making a list of what exactly you're looking for in your house. Step number 3 is looking at houses. And like I said, today, number 4 is making an offer. Once you find the house that you love and you want to make an offer, your agent can pull recent sales of other houses around that house in the neighborhood so you guys can work together and determine what would be a fair offer price. Once you've determined that price, your agent will write it up. The contract is about 7 pages long, so I'm just going to break it down as simply as possible. But when you're actually writing it up, your agent will go through with you everything so you know exactly what you're signing. The first 3 main aspects of the offer are the purchase price, the closing date, and the earnest money. Earnest money is basically good faith money. It's a deposit that you put down up front. It does eventually go towards your down payment, but it just shows the seller that you're serious and you're not going to randomly back out for no reason. The earnest money amount really just depends on the purchase price and the seller. For example, if the house is $130,000, I would recommend offering $1,000 as earnest money. Like I said, it does go to your down payment. It is cashed as soon as you agree on the offer. It's cash, it's held in a special escrow account, and they hold that until closing day. What date do we put for closing day? Usually closing day is about 30 to 45 days after the buyer and the seller have agreed on an offer, signed the contract. Some sellers want to close ASAP, some would prefer about 60 days. So it really just depends on the situation and the buyer's schedule, the seller's schedule. Your agent will also communicate with your mortgage lender to see how long they need to close because they have a whole different process with underwriting and the appraisal. So it just depends on every situation, but usually it's about 30 to 45 days later. A few other elements of the contract are asking for a home warranty. So if when we're in the house, we notice that some of the appliances are pretty old, you're a first-time home buyer, we can ask for the seller to pay for a home warranty for you for your first year. So if anything breaks, you pay a $100 deductible and the warranty company comes out and fixes it for you. There's also several contingencies within the contract, like inspection, appraisal, financing. We put dates on these. So for example, we put the inspection deadline 3 weeks from now when we're making the offer. If the seller wants it to be sooner, they could say, hey, can you get that done within 2 weeks? That way, if anything comes up that I have to fix, I know sooner rather than later. So those are negotiable features as well. Okay, so we've filled everything in, we've sent it to the seller. What's next? We will put a deadline on the offer, typically about 3 to 4 hours that the seller has to respond by. Just depends when we submit it. I mean, if we're turning it in at 8 o'clock at night, probably we would give them till the next morning to respond, but basically it's just a waiting game, which can be the most anxiety-inducing and exciting part to see what they say. Again, everything in the contract is negotiable, so the seller could counter-offer and want to change any of those elements that I already talked about. For example, they might be fine with the purchase price, fine with the closing date, but they could want more earnest money and they may not want to pay for the home warranty. So if that's the case, your agent will come back to you and say, hey, here's what they said. And you kind of just go back and forth like that until you reach an agreement. There isn't always a counter offer from the seller. They could just say, this looks great, and be done with it, and you move on, but they could counter too. You and the seller have reached an agreement, offer accepted, so exciting. The best part of my job is telling my buyer that their offer has been accepted. Next video, we're going to talk about what's after the offer is accepted, which is called the contract to close process. Like I mentioned before, this was a very simple breakdown of making an offer. The contract is 7 pages long. So the benefit of having an agent is that it can guide you through step by step by step of that whole contract. But this should just give you an idea of what to expect.